What's up, Tigers? How are you doing? I hope life is great wherever you are. Good morning from Spain. My name is Pepe Cuenca and I welcome you to the game of the day of round number 5 of the Gashimov Memorial. As you guys know, it's been played in Azerbaijan and it's gathering the best players in the world. Today I bring you a fantastic game played between the Tiger of Madras, Vishy Anand, ex-world champion, and Anish Giri, one of the best players in the world. I really like the middle game of this game and I enjoyed a lot analyzing it, so I hope you guys enjoy this game as well. So let's cut the bullshit and start analyzing what happened in the 64 squares between Vishy and Anish. So Vishy decided to go for e4, Anish replied with e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5, the Spanish Ruy Lopez. Different alternatives, the Scotch or the Italian with bishop c4. So bishop b5 here, you can play mainly two main moves. So a6, the main Spanish, or the Berlin defense, and Anish Giri goes for that. There are also interesting alternatives here for black. You can try d6 or even g6, but knight f6 has been played in top tournaments for the last years in many occasions. Here the main line goes after short castle, and then knight e4, d4, knight d6, bishop takes, d takes, de, knight f5, queen d8, king d8, and this endgame has been played like thousands of times or millions of times in the top tournaments, and it's been analyzed like very deeply, and it looks like black is doing fine. So people are trying different anti-Berlin instead of short castle. Here also after knight takes e4, rook e1 has been played many games also in the world, in a lot of world championship matches. So the anti-Berlins, what are the anti-Berlins? One of them is queen e2, the other one is knight c3, and Vishy Anand decides to go for d3, protecting the e4 pawn, and then bishop c5 is played by Anish Giri. Here, in this position, Vishy Anand played c3. The reason is the following. So if you go short castle, black can go knight d4. And after knight d4, bishop takes d4. This bishop is a fantastic piece, and it's going to end up in b6. And looks like black is doing fine in this position. Of course, this is very playable, but after bishop c5, Anand wants to stop that line, and he plays c3, controlling the d4 square. And here Anish Giri goes for short castle and knight bd2. The main line goes by far with short castle here in this position, but knight bd2. Not the main line, very interesting. Vishy Anand develops his knight, and now Anish Giri plays rook e8, protecting the e5 pawn, and short castle was played by Vishy Anand and a6. Here you can play bishop a4 or bishop takes c6. In this game, Vishy Anand decided to give up the bishop pair, and in return he gets double pawns, and then after knight c4 he's gonna enjoy some pressure in the center. Of course, the different option is to go bishop a4, b5, bishop b3, and black can continue with h6 and d6. And this looks like some sort of Italian opening, right? So after a6, bishop c6, d takes c6, and knight c4, now Anish Giri has to protect this pawn on e5, right? And there are different options. You can play bishop d6 or knight d7, but in this position Anish decided to go for knight to d7, and Vishy plays rook e1, a really natural move, protecting e4, and now Vishy is ready to strike in the center with d4, and then after some exchange of the pawns, then e4 will be protected. So Anish Giri says, you know what, I know you're going to play d4, so I'm going to play prophylactically against your move. I'm going to play bishop f8, so now after d4, at least my bishop is not hit by your pawn. So d4 is played by Vishy Anand anyway, ed, cd, and we reach this position where black has the bishop pair, but in return, white has a better structure and also a nice center and control on the center. That's why the position is more or less balanced. And at this moment, Anish Giri plays knight b6, knight takes b6, c takes b6, and h3. Prophylaxis against bishop g4, so there's no pressure on d4. And here, black played b4, pushing the pawns a little bit in on the queen side, gaining some space advantage over there. And now bishop f4, really natural move. You can't go to e3 since the pawn is hanging on e4. That's why you go to f4, you control important squares. So I would like to say one thing about this position. So in many cases with the white pieces, you would love to exchange these guys here. So this way black wouldn't have the bishop pair anymore, and then you will have some nice control of the dark squares. So this is the dream, let's say, for the white player in different scenarios, but of course black is not gonna allow that in many occasions. So bishop e6, developing another piece and preparing to connect the rooks finally and bring maybe a rook to the center to d8. So at this moment Vishy played rook e3. This move is really interesting. So he wants to go b3, queen c2, and then bring another rook to e1 or d1. And now f6 was played, giving some fresh air for this bishop, the f7 square, b3. b3 makes a lot of sense. So if in the future, if you want to move this rook to the center, a2 would be hanging. So that's why you play b3 here. And now we have to say that black would love to open the position, right? Like black would love to strike in the center with c5 or f5, but it's really not possible yet, because if, for example, if you play c5 then d5, then this gives white a nice pass pawn in the center and protected, which is a dream. What do you want in life? You want a nice car, you want a nice boy, a nice girl. If you have already a pass pawn, don't complain. Don't complain. So queen d7 was played, connecting the rooks, and queen c2 was played in this game by Vishy Anand. Rook d8 and rook d1, looking with x-rays to this queen. And here again, it's tough. It's tough to break in the center for the black player. It's tough to open the position. If you play something like f5, trusting in Facundo, then you could say, why not f5, Pepe? Stupid Spanish guy, always saying stupid things. You are not even worth as food for the pigs. So the thing is, here white could play bishop g5. And for example, if you move the rook, there is knight e5 coming as well. This is the price you have to pay. The e5 square now is pretty weak. If black plays bishop e7, you can just take stakes and rook d to e1. And this position is really hard for black. If you take on e4, then queen e4, knight g5 is coming, and black is actually much worse. So that's why after rook d1, queen f7 was played, and bishop g3, maybe prophylaxis against queen g6, which would be threatening ideas with bishop a3 in that moment. So queen h5 was played by Anish Giri. And from this moment, I really like the 3-4 following moves by Vishy Anand. I think it's a fantastic maneuver in the middle game. He decides to go for bishop c7, and then some of you will be asking, what is this guy doing with bishop d7? He just wants to go back to g3. He wants to go to a5, not really to a5, because after b4, this bishop would be attacked, and then it's actually doing nothing. But he goes to b6, and this is an extremely interesting square for Vishy Anand. Why? Because from this square, you protect d4, and now you can free this knight to go to some more interesting squares, or also this rook can go to e1 now. And also in the future, maybe you are threatening to exchange black's bishop on f8. As we said, this was one of the most interesting plans, to remove the bishop pair from the black side. So at this point, black played bishop b4, activating this bishop. And now another nice move by Vishy Anand. He plays knight e1. And the idea is pretty simple now. You want to go to d3, attack this bishop, win a tempo, and then control c5. You could use this square for the bishop, for example, or even with the knight. Or also this knight is jumping to f4. But then some of you would be saying, Pepe, what's the idea of knight e1? Can't I just take on e1 and then we reach some position where black is enjoying an opposite color bishop position, where there's a lot of drawing chances? Well, that's true, but as you can see here, there is a lot of mobility on the king side for Vishy Anand related with the pawns. That means, for example, if you do basically nothing, like rook f7, I can start pushing my pawns. Let's say bishop d7 and g4, and this looks fantastic for white. So, for example, after queen h4, f5 is coming, e5 is coming, e6 is coming, and this pawn is going to be in Anish Giri's ass. So that's why it's pretty hard, this position, to play with the black pieces. Also, if you play something like queen f7, there are already tactical shots here in this position. For example, the move d5 is already winning. So let's say you play e, cd, ed. Now you can't take with the bishop since the rook on e8 is hanging. And if you take with the rook, guess what? There is a big baboom in this position. Boom! Rook e6, and queen c8 just wins a game on the spot. So that's why after 91, Anish Giri decides to stay calm with bishop f7, trying to stay relaxing on his couch at home. But then knight d3, and now Vishy has won a tempo. This bishop has to go back to e7, and now rook d2 e1. You see how important is this bishop on b6. There's no pressure on d4, and now your pieces, sorry, the bishop went to d6, and now rook d2 e1. Now your pieces are ready to strike in the center. For example, there's a nasty threat now in this position, which is e5. So let's say if you do nothing, like king h8, e5 is already winning, since there's e6 later, just wins a piece on the spot. So that's why after rook d2 e1, Anish Giri went to play bishop b8 prophylactically against e5, and now you know Anand knows who you should trust. Facundo f4, winning some space in the center, and now black is in real trouble. So e5 is an interesting move, g4 is an interesting move, you do nothing. Also f5 followed by e5. So that's why Anish Giri was kind of desperate in this position, and then tries to gain some light squares with the move f5. The thing is, if you play here e5, then after bishop d5, black would enjoy a nice blockade, and even though you have a protected pass pawn, it's tough to break through in this position. So that's why after f5, the drawback is that now the e5 square is weak. So that's why Vishy Anand tries to jump with the knight e5, forcing black to take on e5 with the bishop. And now it's true that black has managed to get an opposite color bishop position, but after d takes e4, queen takes e4, we can realize that we got 4 pawns here on the king side and 1 pass pawn already. And here our plan is rather simple with the white pieces. You want to go g4, you want to go f5, and you want to go e6, putting those pawns in the light squares. You will control this bishop a lot, and then after that, a bishop on this diagonal could be a killing bishop, since g7 could be extremely weak and attacked. So that's why Anish Giri tries to activate his pieces with rook d2, rook 3 to e2 was played, bishop d5, queen e3, and now takes on e2, and of course you should take with the rook, since taking with the queen would give black a lot of chances to resist. So here, guess what? Which move is coming after queen f5? Boom! g4, queen b1 check, and king f2. And here the position is extremely hard. So f5 and e6 is coming, and now in the game Anish Giri tried to create some counterplay with the move h5. We have to say that if you go queen h1, which looks very natural, after the move king g3, the king is perfectly placed on g3. There are no checks on e1, g1, etc., and then you are ready to continue with f5 and e6. So h5 was played in this position, and then I want to ask you, would you take that pawn on h5? No, taking that pawn on h5 is a big mistake here, since now black can go back to f5 and it's actually blocked all our pawns now, and I would say I even prefer black's position here. So that's why you shouldn't take, but instead continuing with your attack as Vishy Anand did with the move f5. And now queen h1 was played. We gotta say that if you play h4, you can't just continue with bishop d4, queen h1 and e6, because okay, there is a check on g2, but after the move king e1, the king escapes by a d2, and then there are a lot of killing moves like queen e5 or queen g5, and black is gonna suffer a lot in this position. So that's why after f5, Anish what the hell am I saying? Queen h1 is played in that position, and now black is threatening to take on g4 and then play queen g2 followed by queen g4. That's why Vishy played king g3 in this position, stopping queen g2 ideas. And now rook e7 was played by Anish Giri, bishop c5 attacking the rook, rook e6, rook e8, sorry, and e6. And now after the move king h7, Vishy Anand played the killing move queen g5, and Anish Giri had to resign. And again, some of you at home will be saying, what is this stupid guy saying? Can't I win the rook with queen f3? Of course you can, but the king is on h4, it says extremely well placed, incredibly. So you take on e2, then I take on h5, king g8, give me that rook, baby. Who's your daddy? King h7, queen e6, king wherever goes, bishop d4, and black can't stop mate on g7. If you go queen e1, the only available check, king h5, this king is Leonidas. It's a Spartan king, and now there's no way of stopping. Queen takes g7, checkmate. It's been a fantastic game by Vishy Anand. There are a lot of people who were saying, like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, Vishy has to retire, like he can't play chess anymore. Then, guys, what is this? Yeah, what is this, guys? This was a fantastic game, very clean by Vishy Anand, still playing in a really high level. Now second in the tournament after Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen 3.5 points, Vishy Anand and Kayakin 3 points. More action, not today because there's a rest day, but tomorrow we'll come back with more action in the Gashimov Memorial. It's been a pleasure, guys, for me to be here with all of you, and just have a nice day, enjoy life, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.